All
I've
right,
been
good
listening.
afternoon.
I'm listening.
Okay.
Sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are talking today about home buying process in 2022, giving you updates. So I'm going to jump right in and share my screen with you so that way we can get started. So my name is Olga St. Pierre. I am with Keller Williams Real Estate. I have been in the industry for a little bit of time and 13 years to be sure. And our team services New Jersey and Pennsylvania. That's where most of our clients are located. Our team mission is helping you if you have dreams and a plan, and helping you come up with one if you would like to become a homeowner. And once you are becoming a homeowner, we want to be right there alongside with you and supporting you being a sustainable and responsible homeowner in our community. We do help your friends, family, and you if you need our help move pretty much anywhere in the United States and Canada. We know that moving is very stressful, and our job is to make it as stress-free as possible for you. So please let us know if we can help you. Concierge services, this is something that we are very proud of offering. Think of this as yellow pages, pretty much A to Z. Any kind of professional or hands-on or contractor that you may be looking for, we are happy to help you and provide it to you that was recommended to us, that we have used. So please don't hesitate to us and take advantage of our free services. All right, let's jump right in. Here's what we're going to talk about today. Just in general, what the buyer's process looks like, so that way you can understand that. And one of the best ways that I like to talk about it is starting from A to Z, right? When you're talking about a process, it's not as simple as just, you know what, let's go look at houses. We're going to talk about what are some of the realities, fears, and facts about buying a home. What are the realities of the market today? We're in a very interesting market right now. Some of the steps to homeownership that we go through briefly. And then of course, we're talking about financing, and then what are our next steps. So that's the game plan for today. So fears versus facts. I hear this all the time when I'm talking to potential buyers, and I do want to share this with you and also give you my opinion on based on my experience. A lot of people might say, well, I can't afford to buy a home right now. And the fact is, you actually might be surprised. I think the big misconception is the fact that people think that they need to save this big pile of money of at least 20% down payment to buy a home. And if you think about it, let's say you are looking at a $300,000 house, and 20% down is quite a bit of money, right? So the fact is that you can buy your home with as little as no money down, depending on your status, and that there are loan products that are available for you for mortgages, to as little as 3.5% down. However, of course, just like as with a lot of other processes, there are lots of options. There's lots of criteria. So it's important to sit down and figure out what it is that you're trying to accomplish to see which program will be best for you. And you might be surprised. You might be actually be able to buy a home as early as tomorrow. I should wait until the market gets better. Well, a lot of people will ask me, when is the best time to buy a home? And my answer to them always is when you are ready to become a homeowner, not when the market is up or down, because the market is always going to be somewhere, and it's going to be advantage or disadvantage to you or to the sellers. So again, let's figure out and sit down and see what your situation is and what your budget is, and to see if it's the right time for you right now, or perhaps it may make sense for you to wait a little bit. I don't have enough money for the down payment. That's going back to my earlier point about people thinking that they need to have at least 20% down payment. That is not the case. There are a variety of down payment options that are available to you, different programs that are available, and you might be surprised. Sometimes you can actually buy a house with very little amount out of your pocket. So let's sit down and talk about it. That is the way to figure it out. I cannot afford to buy my dream home. So again, here's where we sit down and say, okay, what if we were to get started with something small, something that is, a starter home that will help you get to your dream home, maybe in 3 or 5 years. Right? I am a big proponent of real estate investing. And until you sit down and you look at what you can afford right now versus where you may want to be 3, 5, or 7 years from now, whether that's going to change in your personal status or you are thinking about starting a family, Let's sit down and figure out how we can make you a homeowner now. Does that make sense? Or make sense for you to perhaps just buckle down and save up for a couple of years? And again, the goal is when you're talking about fears versus facts is about learning and getting educated on what the process is all about, which is why this workshop is so important, because it touches upon all of the important aspects for you to consider when you're thinking about becoming a homeowner. So what to expect in 2022. This is something that a lot of this has come from last year. I am keeping a close tabs on the market, and I can tell you that it is still pretty stressful for buyers. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot find a house and buy something. I have plenty of clients that are getting ready to close this month, as well as plenty of buyers from last year that were able to find a house of their dreams. So it is still possible. It just takes planning. It takes really good understanding of where the market is in right now. So that way you can then get everything in order and then you jump and you run. So low inventory is still the case. There are not a lot of houses that are currently in the market, and there's still a lot of buyers that are looking because they are interested in taking advantage of the low interest rates, right? Because with the lower interest rate, you can afford more of a house. With low inventory, this means that you are going to have to make quick decisions, and quick decisions are not for everyone. So this is something that we talk about when we set expectations about the upcoming experience. What is this going to look like to you? So that way you need to be 100% prepared for it. Expect to pay asking price or above asking price. That is 100% true right now. You do not have a leg to negotiate it in. Sellers are in the driver's seat for sure. They dictate majority of the terms. If this is a house that you really, really want, you're going to have to work for it. Expect to waive some contingencies. Absolutely. We have to be really creative when we draft our offers, so that way we stand out for the seller. We want to make sure that we create really, really good terms and conditions for the seller to find very attractive. Discuss competitive strategies. We have some things up our sleeve and we talk about them all when I sit down and work with buyers. Waiving inspections doesn't make sense. What kind of house it is, paying sellers closing costs, and because we really have to get creative in this market to say, okay, how do we make our offer stand out for it to be the most professional, to be the most attractive for the seller to pick ours? Submitting mortgage supporting documents to getting commitment prior to finding a home creates an absolute competitive advantage. What that does, it helps you get ahead. This way, if the seller is looking for a quick closing, you as a buyer can stand out from others and be able to accommodate that. The supporting documents that I'm referring to, we're going to go over a little bit further in this presentation, and it's one of the easiest things that you can do to get ahead, to be more prepared. Working your closing costs and be 100% clear on how much you have to invest in the home purchase and also how much you can afford. This is, again, is even more important in today's market, is to sit down and really, really tackle and figure out how much it's going to cost you to buy a house today. And if those numbers do not make you comfortable and you're not prepared to work with those numbers, this is something that you're going to have to work on. And if it's really out of your realm, out of your comfort zone, then perhaps this is where we talk about and say, you know what, let's wait until springtime. Let's wait until summer or maybe the fall to see if things slow down a little bit. And that's what we're talking about here. If you're not 100% sure, if you are not prepared to run and be very strict with what we have to do and be prepared to make instantaneous decisions most of the time, then let's wait. So here are some of the statistics that I wanted to share with you. And this is something that I share with you that is, I prepare for actually sellers and for buyers. My job is, and it's extremely important to me, is for you to clearly understand where the market is. What exactly can you expect depending on if you're looking in a particular school district, if you're looking in a particular township, or maybe you're looking at this point, you decided to widen your search and look at a particular county. So I tailor this search for you for where you want to be. So that way you can understand exactly what are your possibilities, what can you expect in your search process. And what we generally look for is just to see what happened in the last 6 months, how many homes were listed, which is in your second column, What I also like to see is how many homes go on the contract every month, right? To see your competition and also to see, is there enough inventory for the homes that are listed for you to look at. We also look at to see how many homes get sold every month, right? The more homes get sold, the more competition you are going to have. We also look at a sold median price that will give you an idea roughly. I actually like to look at more details of the average, and I like to see the price that the home was listed at versus how much it's sold for. That will give me an idea on how competitive the bidding process was and what you as the buyer can expect if you are shopping in the same market. And of course, we also look at days on the market. That means that's how many days the home was on the market before it received an offer that was acceptable. What I'm seeing a lot of the times right now is homes stay on the market maybe 3-4 days for showings. After that, the offers are all sorted and then the seller accepts one and the house is off the market and goes under contract. So this is something important to be very, very clear on and understand what kind of competitive market that you're entering in as a buyer. And again, is this something that you're prepared to do? Because if you're not 100% comfortable with it, then my recommendation is let's wait and see what happens. Maybe regroup and let's talk in a few months. Let's see what happens is going to happen in the springtime or summertime. So why buy now? Sometimes if it doesn't make sense, then we talk about let's wait. Yet at the same time, there are definitely advantages of buying a home right now. So number one, mortgage rates are still at their lowest, which means it makes it very affordable and the money is cheap is what they call it, because your mortgage rates right now are some of the cheapest money that you can borrow and pay very low percentage. And of course you borrow most of the time for 30 years, right? Real estate, and I'm a strong believer in real estate investing, is one of the best ways for you to grow your wealth, because most of the time real estate is going to appreciate and help you grow. And of course, you're going to be paying your debt down, which means that your equity and your long-term ownership is only going to appreciate and grow. And of course, the dream of home ownership, being proud of you owning your own home, it gives you a sense of stability and security. You are part of a community. And of course, it also has tax benefits as well for you to take advantage of every year. So owning versus renting, I find having these comparables actually fascinating. And especially in this market, I can give you an example. I had clients at the end of last year who were moving from Maryland to work in New Jersey. And they said, you know what, Olga, we looked at rental first because we're not sure how long we're going to be at this position. And then they said, you know, what we found was that the amount that we would have to pay for renting a house was going to be either the same or it was actually going to be more than what we would pay for a mortgage. So they decided to go ahead and find a house and buy it. And we had the same conversation together with them as I'm having with you right now, sharing what's happening on the marketplace. It did take them a couple of tries. I think we put in 2 or 3 offers before their 4th offer was accepted. And overall, they believe that they have made the right decision. So for you, for someone, you know, if you're thinking about making a move and buying something in the next, let's say if it's this year or next year, think about what are you paying for rent? And what does that mean in terms of investment to someone else if you're renting in terms of, 3 years or 10 years? You can see that total rent paid over the years is really high numbers. And when you are actually owning, there's huge benefits to doing that. So think about that as you are trying to figure out what your next course of action is and when you may want to become a homeowner, right? As owning, you can paint and do your own decor and figure out your own appliances because it's for you to decide. You are your own boss, right? You can do your own updates and upgrades. And of course, you can open your home to whoever you like. You can have any pets that you want. Equity, you are paying down your own mortgage, not someone else's if you're renting a house. And with stability, right, you know exactly how much your mortgage payments are every month and every year. They may go up a little bit because your property taxes may increase or your homeowners may increase. However, the mortgage part of it and the interest is not going to. So it's more stability versus getting an increase in your rent every year. So of course, there are reasons why it may not be the best time to purchase right now. And that's why I just repeat to you that having a conversation on, is this the right time, and taking everything under consideration is always the best thing to do, is just to sit down and figure it out before you start running and maybe doing something that is not in your total benefit. If you're thinking about changing jobs, or if you have recently changed your job, the lender for your mortgage is going to want to see some stability. Okay, so that is important to consider. Financially, if you are working on your credit score, or you need to save up for your down payment, and then we can figure out and put an action plan together for you on what that down payment amount needs to be, and maybe that takes time, then let's sit down and figure it out, so that way you actually have a clear path. Of course, being house poor when it's something that's too expensive, this is a conversation that I have with people all the time, because just because you are pre-approved to buy a $700,000 house does not mean that you should buy one for $700,000. The conversation that I'm going to have with you, one of the first questions that I pose is, what are you comfortable paying per month for your roof, right? Because housing is one of the basic necessities that we need to have. So how much are you going to be able to afford, and what are you comfortable paying in addition to the other expenses that you know you're going to have? You're going to have food bill, utilities, cable, phone, TV, and whatever other things that are important to you. And then my goal is for you to actually enjoy your life and have some money left over as well after your expenses, to enjoy and go have a vacation and spend some time with friends and, have a hobby. Okay. And short-term ownership, this is something that I talk to about with a lot of military families for central New Jersey. They're only relocating here for their military work period of maybe 2 to 3 years. It may not make sense for them to buy a house, and then rental would be the best option for them. So there's a lot of questions that I may ask you for you to consider that you may not realize are important for you to think about in the process of initial conversation of saying, okay, so you want to become a homeowner. Okay, let's talk about all these important things, so that way you know exactly what you are getting into. A couple of different steps to home ownership, and this is my A to Z conversation where we actually talk about an alphabet. A lot of the times what I see people do is they jump in and start looking at houses, and they start going and looking at open houses. So looking at open houses is somewhere in the middle of your alphabet, maybe letter M or N. And what you should do is start it with letter A. And the number one thing that you should be doing is hiring an agent to help you find a home, who is going to sit down with you and have this budgeting and market analysis conversation to make sure that they understand exactly what you're looking for. Remember, when you hire an agent, number one, it doesn't cost you anything. When we work with you as buyers, our commission gets paid by the seller of the home that you choose to buy. So you are engaging services of a professional who does it full time, who is in this industry, immersed and watching it every day. It is absolutely essential that you take advantage of that and you get educated on what to expect. Then we're heading into talking about securing your financing, making sure that your money is there. And then, only then, is when you are actually going to go out and look at houses. Then we're going into making an offer and actually getting into the home. So these are some of the general steps, sort of like from step 1 to step 6 on what it takes to buy a house. So let's just look quickly at a couple of these steps. Number 1, when you hire an agent, here is what I personally am committed to when I speak with buyers. This is what I want you to understand that I am going to help you and bring it to the table. My job is to educate you about the market. I really want to know what your dreams and goals are. I always ask someone, say, tell me what's in your mind. What does that picture look like? Because I don't know what it looks like to you. And I would love to learn that, because I want to understand where you want to end up eventually. Forwarding you homes that fit your criteria. Once we figure out your budget and we know exactly where you're going and you actually are ready to go. And then we coordinate the work of other professionals. Once you find that house that you absolutely love and you make an offer, that is step 2. I kind of divide the home buying process in 2 phases. So phase 1 is where we get ready and we go out and we hunt. And then we find the home that you really, really love. Once we make an offer and your offer gets accepted, that is the end of phase 1. And then phase 2 is where we start the transaction and we actually get you to the settlement table where you get the key to your dream home. This was where We talk about the fact that it takes a village. There's a lot of professionals that are involved from different parts of our industry that help you and get you to the settlement table as quickly, as safely, and as stress-free as possible. And of course, my job is, and the job of some of the other professionals, to help you, guide you through the process, help you understand what's coming up next, negotiate on your behalf. There's a couple of negotiating steps that take place, and be 10 steps ahead, as I call it, and solve any problems that may arise or prevent them from happening is my favorite way of doing it. So there are some questions that we recommend that you ask your real estate agent. And one of the things is that it's very easy to get into our industry. However, you want to make sure that you're working with an agent who truly understands what they're doing, does this job full time, and has experience. So I listed a couple of questions here for you. You should have a great conversation with your agent that you may be interviewing, just to make sure that you also fit well as well personality-wise, and you're going to enjoy working with that person. Buyer's representation agreement and game plan. This is where the conversation that we have with you, besides asking you what your dreams are and what your goals are and where you want to be, is also helping you understand that we don't get paid until you find a house. And what that means is that we invest our valuable time in you and your search. So what we're looking for is to make sure that we partner exclusively with each other, and we commit to each other to help find a perfect home, and that we want to make sure that you're working with just us, right? That's what that means. It's confirming exclusivity between the both of us. And then we also create a timeline, and we sort of working backwards. If there is a time frame that you have, if you want to be in your home by summertime, or maybe it's by Christmas or another holiday, we work backwards to try and figure out when would we have to start working together to make sure that we make that dream happen. Let's talk about financing. It is huge, especially in today's market. And one of the things that I feel very, very strongly about, and a few buyers that I'm working with right now, we had this conversation. My goal is to make sure that your financing is 100% ready to go when you start looking at a house. And that means that you need to get all of your documents together to submit to your lender. And here's the list of the documents that are needed. They are pretty standard. So right now we're in the middle of the tax season. So as soon as your 2021 taxes are ready, your lender is going to ask you for a copy. However, if you are seriously thinking about looking for a home and you are going to need financing, I do recommend that you get all these documents together, because if you do and you're ready to send them in, you're going to be ahead of the game for a lot of people. This is also helpful if you are going to find a house and the seller is going to tell us, listen, we need a quick closing. And quick closing in today's market can mean under 3 weeks, right? Where a traditional time frame could be 30 to 45 days. But it could make you more competitive and more advantageous for the seller to take your offer. If you could tell them, listen, we're ready to go. The buyer has already been approved. All we really need for is the legal documents for the house that we find. Okay, I actually had that happen where my seller needed literally less than 30 days closing because she's buying another house and she needed to make sure that she sold this one ahead of time. So we actually found a buyer that was able to do this because their financing was already ready to go and they just needed a house. So anything that I can do to help you and put you in front of the sellers and make you look more advantageous and more prepared, that is the goal to do in this market. Choosing a lender to partner with is critically important. I strongly suggest that you don't just pull a lender out of somewhere, out of Google, and it's someone that could be in a different state. It is extremely important that the lender you choose to partner with is someone who has been vetted, who has worked with other clients in the area, who knows our market, which is local. So a couple of suggestions is, you can ask for referrals. I am happy to make great recommendations of other lenders that my other clients have worked with. I trust them. They provide great service and they provide great communication. And I know that if we partner with them and work with them as a team, we are going to get to settlement. And that is extremely important to all of us. Okay. I do recommend that you interview a couple to make sure that you are choosing one that you feel comfortable with. to work with. And then the next step in the process is you're going to prepare the loan application, submit those supporting documents, get your pre-approval in place, be ready, be approved with all of your documents, so that way you then are ready to go. Okay. And of course, one of the conversations that you and your lender need to have is selecting the best loan option. And that's what we started to talk about in the beginning. And the best loan options depend on your financial health. I am a big believer in making sure that just like you have regular checkups with your dentist twice a year and with your medical doctor once a year, maybe you go in and you get your blood work done and you just have a general checkup. I am just as passionate about you checking your financial health on a regular basis as well. One of the best recommendations that I can give you is for you to check your credit report on a regular basis. And you are entitled to a free credit report from every credit agency once a year, right? So that's 3 reports. And what I suggest that you do is you spread them out throughout the year, and you get one in the first quarter, you get the second one, a little bit further down in the year, and you actually put it in your Google Calendar or in your calendar that you have on your kitchen refrigerator, and you don't forget to do that. Because if you pull your credit report, because that is the one thing that drives a lot of decisions, financial decisions that you will be able to make. If you need to buy a car, your credit report will be checked. If you need to buy a house, absolutely, your credit report is everything. If you are going to get a cell phone, if you are going to get new utilities set up, your credit report will get pulled. And if your financial health is iffy, your interest rate is going to be higher, your pre-approvals are going to be lower, and you're going to have overall challenges climbing up that financial hill. So in order to avoid that and be always prepared, this is why I always stress it's so important for you to check your credit report to make sure that everything that is on there should be on there. Because if there are any corrections that need to be made, it sometimes can take 3 to 6 months for you to get your credit report back on track and get your credit score back on track. And you know what? A lot of things can happen in 6 months. So just some general information on the credit score. The best credit you're going to be able to obtain with the best rates and the best terms if your credit is at least 700 and higher. The higher you can get to 800, which is where it's almost perfect, the better you're going to be, right? You will have the best interest rates and the best offers available. So that is your table that's on the left. The table that's on the right, I just wanted to share with you just the general information on the different loan programs that are available out there. And as you remember, I mentioned to you in the beginning, you don't have to put down 20%. You don't have to save this pile of money. If you are a veteran, and you qualify, you have a VA loan that's available to you, there is no down payment. There are programs that are available called USDA, that is available in certain parts of both of our states, where again, there is no down payment required. However, there are certain other criteria that you have to meet. So these are all the conversations, these are all the questions that I ask you, as well as the lender will ask you, so that way you can then decide which loan program is best for you. And again, the higher your credit score is, the less money you can put down, the best interest rate you're going to get. So that way you can then choose the best program for you. And just to give you an example, if you were depending on your credit score, let's say that your credit is iffy, right? And let's say that you will have to pay potentially 5.5% on your mortgage. And just remember, this is very much general. I just wanted to give you an idea. What this means is that at a 5.5% interest rate, if you were looking at a certain target monthly payment of, let's say, $1,200 a month, if your credit health was not so good, you could potentially afford a house of around $217,000. And you know what that means? That is probably, let's see, about $40,000 less than if your credit score was excellent and you still wanted to target the same monthly payment, but at 3.5%, you could actually afford a lot more. So just something to think about. And here's the website where you go to get your free credit report. It's called annualcreditreport.com. 9 tips for smooth loan closing. This is something that we talk about. Once you decide, I am in, Olga, I have my game plan. Let's run with it. There are a couple of things that we also talk about that I caution you against doing. Okay, because then it's like throwing the wrench into a smooth running engine. And here are a couple of things that that we talk about. Try not to change jobs. Don't get excited and go out and buy furniture for the house that you have yet to find. Don't buy any car. Don't make sure that you're still staying on time and current all of your payments, whether it's credit cards or something else. Don't lend any money to anyone. Don't co-sign anything or help anyone. The goal is for you to stay focused, to have your budget, and just to move forward. Now, we were talking about a budget, and this is a word that a lot of people don't like, yet it's one of the best things that you can do for yourself, not only if you want to become a homeowner, but as you are a homeowner and you work towards paying down your debt and maybe using some of that money that you may want to save to create more wealth through real estate investing. And it can be very simple. It does not have to be anything complicated. I'm not asking you to create any complicated spreadsheets, but grab a notebook or a notepad. And I want you to think about your expenses, because the amount of money that you're able to borrow is going to be directly affected between how much money you bring from your job versus how much money and what your expenses are every month, right? That's going to be your debt to income ratio. So determine the amount of what you can comfortably spend on your new home. This is where we're talking about your monthly amount, remember, not how much you can qualify for, but what does that monthly payment look like? And let's say if you're renting right now, think about how much you pay for rent right now. And is that the max ceiling, or do you think you can afford more? Okay, depending on the area that you live in. And then, yes, it is time to make some changes if you have to, maybe to tighten your belt, maybe to, put more money to, not buy coffee at Starbucks, or start bringing in lunch to work, so that way you can save more money. And this is part of your game plan, okay? A couple of things to consider, right? We talk about how much money you need for your down payment. It can be anywhere between 3 and 20%. How much money you need for closing costs, just to give you a rough idea, about 7 to 8%. And where are these funds coming from? If you have no money and you need to start saving, let's figure out a good game plan. Also, you can get gift money from your family members. And if that is an option, then definitely we can talk about it. Also, we are in the first quarter of the year. It is one of the best ways for you to jumpstart saving for your closing costs and down payment. So how? Step number 1, if you receive a bonus from your job that you received at the end of December, I encourage you to take that money, don't look at it, and put it in a separate savings account that you're going to open up. Make sure that it's interest bearing. And that account is going to be called my new house account. Okay, make it fun. Call it as you want, but something fun. Next, if you got a salary increase, I encourage you to take that difference that you're going to get in your paycheck every 2 weeks and have that difference automatically deposited into your savings account for your new home. And step 3, when you do your income taxes for 2021, if you are getting a refund, I encourage you to take that money and put it directly into your savings account for your new home. So I just gave you 3 really, really great strategies on how you can save money and jumpstart your savings for your new house. Monthly mortgage payment. This is something that is important for you to understand, especially in the area that we live in. People think that the monthly payment is going to vary drastically depending on your interest rate. That's actually is not true. Because your monthly payment is combined of 4 parts, which is principal, this is what you borrow from the bank, your interest, right? That is what the bank is making for lending you the money, property taxes, and then your homeowner's insurance. The biggest impact on your monthly payment are going to be your property taxes because of the area that we live in. So if you're telling me that your maximum amount of money that you want to spend per month is $2,500, and you're going to tell me that you want to be in certain county, I'm also going to share with you in certain counties which townships have the highest property taxes that is going to make your monthly payment for you to be able to afford less, right? And then there is going to be, of course, some other townships where you can still live, let's say, in the same county, or if the school district is important to you, but you're going to be able to afford more of a home. So that's as important to understand. Step 3 in our overall processes, we're talking about finding your home. And this is where I ask you questions on the things that you definitely have to have versus the things that you want to have, right? So needs are the things that I absolutely have to be in a single family home. And I need a minimum of 3 bedrooms, but I would love to have 4. I would love to have 2 bathrooms. I do need them because I have a big family. I would love to have a garage, but I don't have to. I would love to have a pool, but if I have room to put a pool in later, that would be great. So we talk about what are some of your needs versus what you would like to have. And it's important that way I understand what are your things that you're not going to negotiate on, like the minimum. I am not going to look at homes that are less than 1,500 square feet because it's too small for my family. Okay, so these are all the questions that we're going to talk about because that is how we build a search for your dream home. I use the criteria of the things that are not negotiable, and I leave everything else as it's great if it's there and it's okay if it's not. My job in working with you when we look at houses is you are looking at the things, if this house is going to work for me. What about the layout? Is it location working out for me? How is the space working out for me? Features and amenities. My job when I am walking in the house behind you is to make sure that you are getting a good deal. How does that home compare in terms of sizes and layouts and value to other homes in the area? Is the price that you're paying is going to be acceptable? Right? Potential resale value. If you're telling me that you're going to move out of this area in 5 years, right? That's part of our initial conversation. Then I'm going to tell you, you know what? Because of where the house is located, you may have challenges selling it, right? Depending on where it is. Big ticket items, I'm always keeping an eye out for you to make sure that the home is structurally sound. Does the roof look like it may need to be replaced in the next year or 2? Any kind of structural concerns and maintenance. Next, of course, we are ending our phase 1. We're going to make an offer and we're going to negotiate the terms for your offer. And at this point, there's a couple of different things that we look at, right? We have the price, we have the terms, and we have any contingencies that we may want to add in our offer. And then we, at that point, hope that our offer gets accepted. So steps 5 and 6 are our second part of our second phase of our transaction. We have our inspections, we are doing our appraisal, we're getting our mortgage situated. And this is why, because you have so much going on. If you already submitted the paperwork for your mortgage, this is where you don't have to worry about doing that, right? Because the mortgage company is already humming. They already have everything that they need. And what we do is we focus on our inspections, we focus on the appraisal, and there's anything else that we need to do. And part of step 6 is where we work on it in the last couple of weeks after the inspections have been done, everything has been negotiated and done. And we get our final mortgage commitment, which is the final approval for the money that is going to be lent to you. We're actually talking about finalizing, packing, moving plans, doing our final walkthrough, and actually attending the closing, during which you sign the legal ownership documents, you bring your final funds, which is part of your down payment in your closing costs, and you get the keys to your house. Guess what? That's not over yet. Once you become a homeowner, I am very passionate about making sure that you are protecting your investment, right? And it's the biggest investment for most of us that we make, which means that you have to make sure that you maintain your house, you keep an eye on it, you keep a file of all your receipts for your repairs and warranties. We help you by giving you a home binder. We also provide you with a yearly home maintenance checklist to make sure that you do certain things to make sure that small items don't become really, really big issues. If you are starting to think about looking at houses and you want to get the most accurate information out there, we encourage you to download our app. And it's easy to use. It's very user-friendly. You'll be able to see all the homes that are currently for sale. It's more accurate where it will tell you if something goes under contract as quickly as it does. So the link is here for you. So this is what I wanted to share with you. And of course, I am happy to help you with the information on what does homeownership look like in the area you may want to buy. I'm happy to have a in-person or a complimentary call or do it on Zoom to discuss your options. A lot of the times people don't realize that if they want to buy, they may need to sell something. And that is an important conversation to kind of have and figure out how we can make it happen. And of course, if there's any other questions and suggestions, you can check out our workshop schedule, which we do have every week at the link at Live with Olga. And then all the recordings of every workshop that we do, you can go back and listen to again from the comfort of your home on our YouTube channel at Penn Jersey Living. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. And I wanted to find out if there's any questions. Hi, Susan. You're on mute.
That better?
Yes. Happy birthday.
Thank you. And thank you very much for the cake and the ticket.
My pleasure.
I appreciate both. I hope I'll be a big winner.
We do too. We do too. I do get calls periodically where they're like, yes. So it's
That's always a good thing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did Rick jump off? It looks like he did. Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Sarwan, I know that you jumped in a little bit later. Did you have any questions, if there's any on anything that we talked about? You're welcome to type it in the chat as well if you want.
Okay. Well, I guess my biggest question about making a budget is how do you know what things cost in terms of the house that you're going to? Or, I mean, I know what I spend here, which is going to be different than what I spend where I move. Things like utilities, for instance, or sewer cost or whatever.
I know that, let's say you and I talked about certain communities that you may want to be in, right? What I can do is actually call the agents for some of the houses that were listed. And I can always ask them, what are your summer, winter utilities? How much do you currently pay? And that is a common question that they get. So sometimes they actually have pre-filled out documents. We can also call, depending on the area that you're thinking about, we can actually call the utility company and we can get a general idea on that house's annual costs to heat and to cool as well.
Well, I know when they say you have a wonderful 10-foot drop from the second floor to the first, that's called loss of heat.
All right. Unless you have a ceiling fan that's turning to, to bring the air down, right?
Yes. I mean, I know there's tricks to almost everything, but it's things like that I'm, I guess, more concerned about just in terms of doing my budget and making sure that this is the right, I'm spending the right amount of money for a home.
I agree. We can try and get some of that information, especially water and sewer as well. That's part of the questions we always ask. So we ask them their annual heating costs, the average winter heating costs, average cooling costs, and then how they get their water and sewer. And also there's trash. Sometimes trash is built into your property taxes and sometimes it's private. So we ask those questions again as well.
I guess in my case, I probably am also very interested in the homeowners association and what they pick up and what they don't.
I agree, because that will save you on some of your expenses if it's already budgeted in your HOA costs.
Right.
So,
and I guess the other thing for me is really taxes, because there seems to be even a fairly wide variety in the couple of jobs that I think are really nice. I mean, the taxes are a surprise in some cases, and in others, I'm pleasantly surprised. I mean, it's been, I've been surprised, generally speaking, just because of the difference. You would think that it would be a more homogeneous thing because I'm not looking at a huge area in New Jersey. Anyway.
I agree with you. That's why I'm always keen on making sure I'm aware of the taxes. And, sometimes it's just interesting to see. I was showing in the townhouse community in Mercer County. So it was Princeton area. And you literally have 10 by 10 area in the back. right? And the tax is $10,000 a year.
Uh-huh.
That's all you have to use. So, yeah, and so we're, so
Well, I
taxes are a
guess,
big consideration.
yeah, well, they are. I mean, and anyway, that's certainly one of my concerns. I guess the other thing is it's the structural part, because
Mhm.
a little bit of looking I did do before, I mean, two especially homes that I backed out of was one I literally got to inspection and found like a nightmare on my hands.
Mhm.
And the other was more of a personal problem, but still in all, you don't want to be real surprised by, I need a new roof in the next 2 months, that kind of thing. At least I
Absolutely.
don't want to be that surprised. I mean, I'd rather know that the roof has, maybe 2 or 3 years, and or the homeowners association, takes care of it, that kind of thing.
I agree.
Anyway, I have a little bit of work to do, because actually looking at what I really spend every month is probably a very good idea for me. I don't really do a whole lot of that. I really spend more of my time looking at the market and seeing how much I gain or lose. And in this particular case, this has been a bad month.
Right.
But I'm hoping it doesn't stay that way. Who knows, right?
That's
I mean, I
right.
know that the market is due for a correction as well, to some
I
extent.
agree.
I would
Definitely.
rather the market correct before I jump in with 10 feet.
I hear you. I hear you.
So I guess that's where I'm at, kind of thing.
Sounds good.
And what I also thought I would do is start writing down the jobs that I've seen that I really think that I would like to, given the right circumstances, look at other things as they come up. Because some have been, I think, better for me than others. I mean, there's one I was going to call you in on, and I had physical therapy and I didn't do well for the next couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
But the one, I guess, on something Honeyflower Court or whatever in Pennington, looked like, for a lot of different reasons, it was the right price, it was the right location, it was the right amenities. And I was kind of surprised, actually, by the reasonable taxes. Well, so reasonable always works for me.
I'll double check on that one for you.
I think it said pending. I don't think it was on the market for more than 2 days or 3 days, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But that's something that I would like to go up and see that job, I think, generally speaking, because lots of times, I think I told you before, you really don't know
Mm-hmm.
really what a job is like until you at least drive in and see something there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So anyway, I did notice that.
All right. Well, if nobody else has anything else, Rick, welcome back. We're wrapping up.
He's muted.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Sarwan, did you have any other questions?